Your previous match with Mazahir. We have Mazahir on our podcast as well. So he said something, and we have a lot of comments on that specific video. They said the refereeing is not good. We want to know how is your experience with Aabhas Rana. As you can see, you have a good practice pool with Aabhas Rana. How is your experience with Delhi boys?
So one thing you mentioned here that you have seen Abhas, especially after a gap of around an year and a half. And one thing that was quite noticeable was that he has doubled in terms of his musculature. So do you think he's
Yes.
natural? Could have been a great match for Indian audience. That was Abhas versus Auden Larratt.
We also want to have a match India versus Pakistan. So like Mazahir versus Ali Khan. So if ever this happened, so who is your favorite in that match?
I think Denic is pound for pound the best arm wrestler in India.
So you might have seen some of his matches. Do you have any tips for Denic, like what kind of improvements he can make to become a more better arm wrestler?
Between LEVAN versus ERMIS. So who is
Yeah.
your favorite in that match? What if they want to grow like Abbas Rana? What they need to do?
Would you suggest three most important exercises that transfer directly to the table and three useless exercises that you think have become quite popular but are useless for arm wrestling? So, welcome to COG Call of Gains. Today we have one of the most popular arm wrestlers internationally and also in India, Mr. Ryan Bowen, who is a frequent guest to India, especially in PPL events. Indian fans especially know him by his super match with Mazahir Saidu. So today we'll discuss a lots of important things that are trending in arm wrestling and also his opinions about the recent match of Mazahir and lots of different topics. So first of all, thank you for being a part of our show. We'll start with you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on, man. I've been watching Call of Gains kind of secretly for a while. As you know, I'm a big fan of Indian arm wrestling, and you guys do a good job of summarizing all the dramas that are going on between athletes and all sorts of stuff. So I'm a fan. So thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks a lot. We'll start with you, Ryan. We want to know that how you get into arm wrestling, from where you started, and how's your arm wrestling journey till now?
Yeah, so I started arm wrestling in 2013. I discovered the sport kind of accidentally. I'd always loved arm wrestling. As a kid growing up, I arm wrestled in school, and when I was in the military, I was arm wrestling everyone at work, and it always was something that I was naturally good at. I was undefeated through all that sort of time, but I never knew that it was an actual professional sport. And after I got out of the military, I owned a retail supplement store, and I my wholesale resupplier challenged me to an arm wrestle one day, and he beat me, and it got under my skin, and I thought to myself, hang on a second, I don't lose arm wrestles to random people. So I said to him, when you come back next month, I'll beat you. And as soon as he walked out the door, I jumped online and started researching technique and all that sort of stuff. And I saw the movie Pulling John, and I realized, hang on a second, there's a professional sport out there. And so for me, it was a second chance at becoming a professional athlete. And that day, I went all in, and that was back in 2013. And I haven't finished, well, haven't stopped pursuing it since then. So a lot's it's been a very enjoyable journey, a long journey. But I love arm wrestling through and through, and it'll always be part of me for sure. Yeah. What was the second part of your question? You said that's something about my arm. I missed that bit.
Sorry. From where when you started till now, how you see arm wrestling, how it's grown, how it's changed.
Oh yeah. So when I started with arm wrestling, certainly within Australia, it has changed enormously. There were only the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation was founded, I think, in 2012. So just before I came along, and we've gone from having just a handful of people to now having in every city we've probably got 6 to 10 clubs, and every club's probably got 20 to 30 people in it. So we got a good size. We haven't got India size arm wrestling yet, but it's changed a lot. And then globally, I have, like, when I started in arm wrestling, my goal was to make it a career. I wanted to not just compete, but I wanted it to be what pays the bills for me as well. And I got to that point in 2018 where my YouTube earnings and social media earnings and event earnings was enough to live off. So I feel very blessed that the sport's growing to a point where I can do that. And I've seen more and more people, I mean, yourselves included, I'm sure, have an awareness of what it's like to build a business around YouTube and things like that. But there are more and more people now that either compete in arm wrestling or talk about arm wrestling or some mixture of the two that can legitimately call it a career now. So I think the sport's come a long way in that respect. And it's an exciting time because more and more people are being successful in the career sense. And the guys at the top are getting paid quite well. So yeah, that's how I see the sport having changed since I got involved. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So the sport has come definitely a long way ahead, and people like you have made it possible. So one more thing we wanted to know that you are nicknamed Ryan Blue Bowen, and we heard that you served in the Australian Army. There you got this nickname. So what's the story behind this?
Yeah, the story behind the nickname, it's kind of like calling a big guy tiny or something like that. Like it's an old nickname from World War One. Australian soldiers were given, anyone that had red hair was given the nickname Blue. And so when I was in the military, one day during physical training, I was climbing a rope tower. And I was at the top of the rope tower, and the physical training instructor had no idea what my name was, but he could see I was a redhead, so he just called out Blue. And it stuck. And so, yeah, ever since then, Ryan Blue Bowen has been the nickname. So people, so much so that I meet people that they think that's my middle name. They think it's actually on my birth certificate or something, but no, it's a nickname. But yeah, an old World War One nickname, that one. Yeah.
Quite interesting fact from Ryan himself. So first we'll start with the recent most trending topic. Just after Mazahir's match, he has not quite yet celebrated enough and you called out him for a rematch. So we'd like to know your opinion about the match yesterday which happened with Omar. You said that he was not a worthy opponent to face Mazahir. It was completely mismatched. I think most of the fans also agree with this. So we'd like to know your opinion on the whole match and the whole scene.
Yeah. So like the call out that I did for Mazahir yesterday came from the fact that I was kind of shocked and a little bit disappointed at the super matches that happened yesterday. Across the board, not just Mazahir's match, but it seemed like there was, I don't know if it was if there was an agenda from the promoter or it was just that poorly put together in terms of balancing matches, but there seemed like there were a lot of matches where they were incredibly one-sided. Now, Mazahir, we know he's been the dominant number one in India for a long time. And when you are the national champion of a nation, if you're an athlete, you don't want to face the number 10 guy in a different weight category. I don't know what, no disrespect to Omar, but I know he's not the COC of Pakistan. I know that the COC of Pakistan was keen for a match with Mazahir and never got it. So I don't know who was organizing things, but I was disappointed for Mazahir, for the reputation of like if you're going to get an international match, you want it to be difficult. And so I straight away thought, that's like I said, I congratulated Mazahir, but I thought that was a waste of time. It doesn't help Mazahir's career, not as an athlete. Maybe as a promotion, it helps in respect to saying, hey, look, I beat, but he can't even say I beat the guy from Pakistan. He has to say I beat someone who's not really the guy from Pakistan. So it missed a lot of, like, I think it backfired, that event, in that respect. So I saw that and was disappointed and thought I'd give Mazahir an opportunity to have a real match. As you know, he and I had a very tough super match in 2023 November. I got the win 4-3 that day, but really it could have gone either way. We were exhausted, both of us, at the end of it. And I thought straight away, look, yeah, I can be in India, I can be in Dubai, I can be anywhere within 3 days. And so the offer is there, Mazahir. If you want a match that is actually going to give you progress in the sport, win, lose or draw, it's a real match. He and I both know that. And everyone wants redemption too, don't they? Surely Mazahir wants to prove that he can fix the errors. But like I said to him, we've all progressed. So I think it'd be crazy for anyone to think that it'll be one-sided either way. I think that it'll be just as hard a match again. And yeah, I think I'll win, but I think it'll be a tough match.
Your previous match with Mazahir. We have Mazahir on our podcast as well. So he said something, and we have a lot of comments on that specific video. They said the refereeing is not good. You both are agree that you will take the own grip, and after that you start complaining about something. So this is the thing that Mazahir highlighted, and people are also commenting on this that this is not a fair refereeing between both of you. What's the scene behind this from your perspective?
Well, to me, the video speaks for itself. You have a look at where that video is posted. It's whether you look at it posted on PPL's channel, look at it posted on my channel. 99% of comments on there are going, "What the hell is with this refereeing? It's the worst refereeing I've seen." And sorry to Mazahir, I think he's blind if he thinks the referees were on his side. Oh, sorry, on my side. I've never had a more bizarre refereeing situation as that. In respect to the way ref scripts were done, the athlete's responsibility is to obey the referees at all times. The referee's responsibility is to get us centered, to get our webbing squared, and have your opponent's shoulders squared, and have your opponent not cover the knuckle. That's all their job is to do in the setup. It's get your center, get your webbing, and don't cover the knuckles. It's not my job as an athlete to do that. But it is their job as a referee to call a foul when those things are broken. And they just weren't. They were just letting Mazahir literally. There was one round where my thumb started in the center of his palm, and they didn't call a foul. And he does that after the go. And I'll say, "Don't move, ready," and then he'll go up over my thumb, and then I'll say, "Go." And I say, "Where's the foul guy?" So anyway, like I did what I had to do. I communicated with the referees and reminded them, "Hey, you know that he's covering my thumb knuckle. Are you going to do something about this or what?" Like, it's not my job to make the referees, well, to point out. It shouldn't be my job. But when the match is being fought so difficultly like that, it can be a huge factor. And so it was something. So I will always communicate with referees, no matter where I go, no matter what stage I'm on. I think being in unison with the referees and knowing the rhythm of the match, knowing the pace of how they're starting, knowing what they're going to do, and having them do it effectively is important. So my understanding for that match was that we were going to be under WAF rules. And I said prior, yeah, whatever rules you guys want, it's your referees. So whatever rules you guys want is fine. And so when I'm briefed that it's going to be WAF rules, I expect it to be like that. And even if it's not, like, I don't mind sloppy refereeing as long as it's sloppy in a fair way. Then fine. If you just want to say take a grip, you guys, and then go, then I would have taken a hook grip to start with. But Mazahir wouldn't have liked that. He would have wanted a top roll. So it was meant to be WAF. It kind of started out WAF. We got elbow fouls called, some elbow fouls not called, little bobbles missed, but most importantly was and I'll actually talk about it. One of the things I see as a problem for Indian arm wrestling development has been the loose strap. Loose, when you go international, if you go to a Zloty tour, or you go and compete at WAF Worlds, or you go and compete at Europeans, or you go and compete anywhere in the elite space on the international scene, you will get referees put your palms together. The base of your palms will be together, and they'll say to you, "Do not move." And if you flare your wrist out looking for some loose top roll, you'll get fouled. They will grab your palms and put it together and say, "Do not move." And when they tighten that strap, it locks you down. So the refereeing habits, I see a lot of Indian arm wrestlers like the loose strap. Mazahir is one of them for sure. So that was straight away to me. I'm like, what is going on with this loose strap stuff? I thought we're WAF rules here. And there is no WAF rule. Like, I'm friends with the guy who wrote the book, who literally wrote the book, Bob Brown from the USA. He is the author of the WAF rules. He will tell you that there's no such thing as the man with the buckle gets to determine how loose the strap is. That is a load of rubbish that has just been invented by arm wrestlers that want a loose strap. It's the referee's discretion, and the referees are meant to tighten the strap. That's what it is. So there's been this habit that I think is actually making it difficult for the Indian top-level arm wrestlers to progress to the elite level, because they're getting used to this loose strap in their home nation. They go overseas and it feels foreign to them, because they're like, "Whoa, why am I getting tied so tightly?" So I think that's a separate issue, but that made me think about it when I remembered the loose strap. So ultimately, the situation on that day was WAF rules, and they were super not WAF rules, and I was reminding the referees of what WAF rules are. Yeah.
So the point that you mentioned about the tightening of the straps, I'd like to share that even in local levels, we have this idea that the guy on the with the buckle on his side can ask the referee to make it loose, and this was completely new to even us. So
Yeah. It's not a rule. It's totally been just made up. I blame Travis Paget. You know, if you've got to blame anyone in the world, blame Travis Paget, because Travis is a very good talker, and one of the ways that Travis wins matches is by controlling the referee. And he will. Travis, I've seen him do it. Travis said to me, like, I spent a couple of weeks with Travis back in 2018. We ran a whole bunch of tournaments, and I stayed at his home, and we were talking arm wrestling. He said he loves the buckle side. And I said, what do you love the buckle side for? He said, because I can get it real loose. And he's a big, powerful top roller with a good high hand, like Mazahir. And he said, when that referee tightens it down, he goes, oh, what are you doing? Why are you making it so tight for? Like, it hurts. And like, he will pretend to be in pain, saying, what the hell, man? You don't need to tighten it anymore. And so he would manipulate referees by pretending to be in pain when it wasn't already tight, when it was loose. And so he would manipulate a loose strap, but he became an advocate for buckle side gets to decide it. But it's not the case. So we can all blame Travis, but it's not the rule.
So if a rematch happens with you and Mazahir in India again, would you be comfortable with the same referees?
Yeah, of course. I'm fine with the same referees. Look, I'll put Mazahir in a hook this time. I know the lane. I think that Mazahir is respectfully, he's a one weapon puller. I'm sure he's been trying to develop his hook. I'm sure he's been trying to develop his transition to a press, but still he has an ace. He's a glass cannon. He's got a big top roll. So look, I would be fine with those referees again. That's no dramas at all. I think I'd beat him better this time.
Okay, as we can see that you are a good friend with Sanjay Deswal as well. So we'll forward our question. We want to know how is your experience with Aabhas Rana. As you can see, you have a good practice pool with Aabhas Rana. How is your experience with Delhi boys?
Yeah, the Delhi club invited me over. I got to group up with Abbas that day, and Sanjay Deswal as well. I don't think Siddhant was there that day. No, he was there that day. I apologize. Siddhant was there that day as well. So gripping them, I mean, Abbas that day was the standout for me in terms of who impressed me most, given his age at the time. I think he was 15 when I gripped him or something, maybe 16 or whatever it was. He is incredibly strong. That club I see have. So I saw both Abbas and Siddhant in Mumbai in late October last year at Asians. I didn't get to group up with them, but I could see that they had developed substantially. In a muscular sense, they were bigger than they were when I grouped up with them. I see their curls. I see their bench press. I see a lot of big lifts going on. Now, one thing, however, and this is something that I've learned in my experience in my 13 years so far, and it took about until year 9 or 10 to learn this lesson, that muscular strength can be trumped by conditioning in the sport. And to put it a little in a different sense, if I had to have a super match and my life depended on it, and I had to face someone who'd been in the sport 20 years but only had 80% of my 1RMs versus someone who's been in the sport 5 years and has 120% of my 1RMs, I would very quickly pick the 5-year guy who's got 120% of my 1RMs. So Abbas, for example, is stronger than me in the gym. Everywhere. His bench crushes me. His bicep curls are ahead of mine. Who knows what else he's probably ahead of mine. But I would feel more confident going against him because you can't rush joint conditioning. It's the one thing, like the only way to get joint conditioning is time in the sport. You have to be very patient. I had a match with Ron Barth in January last year, and I was muscular in a muscular strength sense. I was able to hold Ron at center. I took his wrist slightly. I held him at center for about the first 5 seconds, and then he just leant on his joints, and the match went sideways towards his victory. And I spoke to him after the match, and I asked him when was his peak in the sport in a muscular sense, and when was his peak in the sport in a joint conditioning sense. He said from age about 40 to 45 was his muscular peak, and he said right now is my joint conditioning peak at 62. So joint conditioning is something that just keeps on adding up over time in years. And so when I think of the Delhi guys, I see they're really strong. They're really, in a muscular sense, they're amazing athletes. But where they're lacking is their joint conditioning. And that's just they just have to be patient. They just have to be patient. It'll come. If they keep arm wrestling, it'll come. But I think Aabhas at his age, super promising, but probably still needs some time before he's going to beat a big scalp. Like Mazahir is hard to beat because Mazahir has the hardened joints, he has the conditioning. It's very difficult. And where the conditioning matters is wrist and elbow, just those two things. Like again, another analogy is if you grip a guy who, let's say, a 20-year veteran and a 5-year veteran have the same 1RMs. When you grip that younger guy, he's going to feel elastic, even though he's got the exact same strength. You grip the 20-year guy, and it feels like a steel bar because his strength is instantaneous through his hand and wrist. And so, for someone like Aabhas and Siddhant, they can lose rotation if someone is within their strength zone in a muscular sense. That's got more experience, they'll lose their rotation. So I think they're promising, but I just think they need more time, those guys in Delhi, because they're all very young in the sport.
Exactly. So as we have heard in bodybuilding that there is a thing called muscle maturity that comes over years of hard work. So in arm wrestling also, I think you are talking about the maturity of the tendons, the bones, joints, and the ligaments. That will take time. So one thing you mentioned here that you have seen Aabhas, especially after a gap of around an year and a half. And one thing that was quite noticeable was that he has doubled in terms of his musculature. So do you think he's
Yes.
natural?
No.
No.
Sorry, I don't know if I can just throw people under the bus. And I'll qualify that with no, but I don't know. I don't know. No one's told me. But do I think he's natural? No. Sorry. No.
Fair
Pretty
enough.
simple. No.
You can have your opinion. That's okay.
Well, like I said, what you will find is that, look, this is a subject that people can't really openly speak about, and we can appreciate that. And the fans will bang on the door trying to get straight answers. And if you answer straight, then you get in trouble by all the people that say, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that." And if you answer saying, "I'm not on anything," then all the people who know think you're a fool. So you're between a rock and a hard place as an athlete. It's not easy. So, but look, once you get within the trusted circles of somebody in the sport, they'll tell you. And I promise you, everyone that's elite, they are. Everyone that's elite in the male division, everyone that's elite is. And if they say they're not, then they've just note that they've chosen to say they're not. Don't hold it against them though, because they've probably got a wife or a mother that will get them in trouble if they say that they're on.
Exactly.
So one more quite trending topic that could have been a great match for Indian audience. That was Aabhas versus Auden Larratt. So you just mentioned that you don't think Aabhas is natural. Do you think Auden was natural? And the second part is that uh, could Aabhas have destroyed Auden Larratt if the match happened at the scheduled time that was being planned?
Yeah, you know, I was a big advocate for that match happening. I was having met Abbas, and I've met Auden, but I've never pulled Auden. He was younger when I met him. He was still a teenager, but um, I would have loved to have seen that. I was really hoping it would happen. And it was disappointing that Abbas didn't get the opportunity for whatever reason. No, I think it would have been a fantastic match. I think that originally I had in my head Auden as the slight favorite, just because of the lack of wrist stiffness in Abbas. I thought Abbas is stronger in the arm, I have no doubt, but I thought Auden with his leverage would get it. But now having seen, getting a bit more of a clear picture of Auden's level after his loss to Artem Taranenko, whom I have pulled a bunch of times, I now think Abbas would have won. Is what I think would have happened. But truthfully, it would come down to whether I still think Auden will take hand control against Abbas. But Abbas, as long as Abbas has learned technically to pull with a dead wrist, I think his arm strength would be too much for Auden. I think that he could just patiently, even if his wrist just half goes, that's fine. As long as he kept his pronation high, a little bit of Todd Hutchins style, if he had to, I think he would win. But I do think Auden would take hand control, but I think ultimately over a super match, Auden's bicep would gas against Abbas. Dangerous match, but it's a match again. I wish we got those matches. I am a huge fan of Indian arm wrestling, and I'm waiting to see Indians take on good international opponents. And I know promoters like to protect athletes from losses, but truthfully, if you want to be world elite, you got to pull world elite. I'll boldly say that I don't think you'll see a world champion from India unless Indians start competing against other elite people from other nations. It's got to happen. You won't be able to develop a world champion just purely in India, because a fish only grows as big as its tank. You know what I mean? If you don't know how hard the Ukrainians and the Russians are and through their wrists, you'll never push hard enough to get there yourself. And so I hope we get to see. It's a really disappointing thing that Abbas didn't get that opportunity. It would have been huge for him in a marketing sense. Win, lose or draw, it would have been huge for him. He would have been given more opportunities, I'm sure, and it would have brought more eyes to Indian arm wrestling. I know there are plenty of eyes within India already, but for the sake of the athlete, for the opportunity for them to become somebody in the world level, I think that was a big opportunity missed.
Exactly. We are also waiting for this match, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. So let's see if they make another call, so we can see. So we'll move forward with you. As we see, you have commented on Ali Khan's video. You have shown that Ali Khan's from Pakistan arm wrestler. So why you pick Ali Khan, and what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, well, when I saw that Ali Khan had someone called out Mazahir, was looking for a match with Mazahir, again at the time I was like I said, I can be in this region of the world pretty easily at the moment. So I'm always keen for matches, and I'm always keen for taking on the best guy in the country. I've earned my right to do that by being my national champion at my weight. So Ali Khan, I understand that he is the COC of Pakistan. I looked up his matches, really explosive drag hooker. Obviously a dangerous guy. He's beaten plenty of people on the world level. And I think he now resides in Kazakhstan. So it makes sense as to why he's such a good arm wrestler. Being in and around the Kazakhs would be a huge thing. So for me, it was just one of those things that I didn't realize he was in Kazakhstan. I thought he might have been in Pakistan at the time. And so I chatted with him, and we weren't able to make it line up in the immediate sense, but we were very keen to group up whenever we did find ourselves in the same part of the world. So that's one that we'll kind of hope to see some point in the future. I'd love to pull Ali. Yeah.
We also want to have a match India versus Pakistan, so like Mazahir versus Ali Khan. So if this happened, so who's your favorite in that match?
I think Ali Khan's the favorite because of his style. Again, Mazahir does not have a good record against people that can set a hook, and Ali Khan is very fast at setting a hook. And if you look at the caliber of opponents that he's been able to set hooks on, I think that Mazahir, if Mazahir hasn't developed the correct technical counter to that explosive drag hook, then it's going to be advantage Ali Khan. But a great match. I'd love to see it. Like India v Pakistan obviously has enormous potential to be very interesting, whether it's the cricket or any other sport. You guys are at each other over it, and that's what makes it fun. So if you can genuinely get the COC of Pakistan and the COC of India to face each other, 10 times more interesting than what we saw yesterday. 10 times more. And I just think stylistically, Ali Khan's got the right tools to trouble Mazahir. I could be wrong. Mazahir might have filled that gap now, but I haven't seen it yet. I saw he's lost to the 90-kilo Eastern European fella, and Ali Khan's got a pretty similar style.
As we can see yesterday, Mazahir started doing hook. So I think he started preparing working on his weakness actually.
Yeah, and look, it's difficult when you have one big ace. It's difficult to tell yourself to develop the other side of the spectrum as well. And Mazahir definitely, he doesn't necessarily need to get a hook as good as his top roll, but he at least needs to have a high hook ready for when he can't top roll someone. And then he needs to develop his shoulder press behind that high hook. That's what he needs to do at the minimum. He doesn't need to become a deep hooker or a drag hooker or a defensive hooker, but he needs at least a high hook and a press to go with it. That seemed to be missing when he faced me. He still seems to be someone that he's top roll or nothing. And that's best identified by the fact that he will top roll himself to the point where he is below the table and his hand is still above the table. He can't get back from there. Where if he stays with his hand, if he keeps his shoulder with his hand at his top roll, I think of people like Rahul Panika, master of never overcommitting to the top roll. Where Mazahir will top roll to here, no, it's not good. If Mazahir stays there with his top roll, he will become a better arm wrestler. But he's still working that out.
So we talked about a lot of Indian arm wrestlers. So we want to know, who is your favorite arm wrestler right now? Indian arm wrestler.
Who is my favorite Indian arm wrestler? Well, I'll say Chetna Sharma is my favorite Indian arm wrestler. I think she's super dominant. I think that, and I say that because she's coaching me in the gym at the moment. So Chetna Sharma is changing who I am physically. I have been someone who spent the first part of my arm wrestling career just doing arm wrestling specifics. And she kind of slapped me around and said, time to do some compound lifting. So I've been powerlifting sort of for about 4 or 5 months, and it's changed so much about who I am physically. And it feels really good on the table. When I pulled Tom Holland, I felt the best I've ever felt. I just felt strong. I was like, oh, this feels good. Instead of being fancy, I just felt like I could just be strong. So her impact on me has been pretty significant. And I know she got called out by Yogesh she's been challenged for the overall COC, and I know that she's ready anytime, any place to pull Yogesh and defend the title. So that's awesome, and I look forward to seeing that match whenever it does happen. But within the men's, I would say my favorite. Now, I think Denic is pound for pound the best arm wrestler in India. From what I've seen, I haven't gripped him. I've met him, I've felt his hand, but I haven't pulled him. But when I watch his results, he stands out to me as the most significant arm wrestler in India. I think from what we see, he's still got a little gap between being India's best pound for pound and getting to the elite level of the world. But Denic's, he's on the way. He's definitely on the way. And for someone like Denic, he just needs more losses to elites. I know that I know that people can be protective of losses, but truly you got to go and find the losses till you can't find them anymore. And Denic's the number one at 80 kilos, no doubt, in India. He can punch above his weight and scare the guys at 90 and 100 kilos, and even supers, I'm sure he can scare in India. But if Denic goes overseas and gets those international matches, chalks up those losses and starts grinding them into wins over the next couple of years, I think he'll go a long way. So I would say Denic's my favorite of the male arm wrestlers.
So Denic had one of the most famous matches in World Cup where he grabbed the silver for India, where also he had a loss against Danilo Stinov. So you might have seen some of his matches. Do you have any tips for Denic, like what kind of improvements he can make to become a more better arm wrestler?
Do you know how many years has Denic been pulling? Do you know?
I think around 7 to 8 years.
Okay, so 7 to 8 years is when, for me, my elbow started to arrive. And what I mean by arrive, you start to become aware that hand control is not enough. Denic's got amazing hand control, very sharp instinct. He's got a great hit, but when he comes up against an elite like Ustinov, it's side pressure that is missing. It's side pressure. It's not technical awareness. It's not really hand. It's the ability to go sideways. And at about the 7 to 8 year mark was when I started training under Todd Hutchins. And for me, the need for that, you start to notice, like, you will get through the novice ranks, you will get through the amateur ranks, you will get to early pro, all with a really good hand and wrist. And then you'll run into a wall where everyone has a really good hand and wrist from then on up. And you realize they also have side pressure. And you go, oh, okay, my hand and wrist, which has been awesome up until now, is no longer enough. It's only getting me to the invite, and then I get smashed with side pressure. So I think Denic's hand appears to me like it's already at the level where he can be an elite, but I think his side pressure needs to be the next thing he focuses on. So a 1 to 2 to 3 year focus on really increasing his ability to just, like, I think the magic number is 60 kilos. And when I say 60 kilos, I'm not talking on a double pulley. I'm talking on a single cable. No questions asked. 60 kilos side pressure is the entry level to elite arm wrestling for someone Denic's weight. So I don't know what he can do, but 60 kilos in all positions. Like, again, when you look at Todd Hutchins, he's the man that quantifies a lot of these things. Like, I think Todd, who's probably got the best direct side pressure out of anyone, is around the 75, 80 kilo mark for raw side pressure with a wrist wrench or something like that. So for someone like Denic, 60 kilos would be 60 kilos with every handle, whether it's a rolling handle, a wrist wrench, pronation through the thumb, supination. You want to be able to do 60 kilos sideways with all those without your hand going outside your shoulder. So if it's outside your shoulder, it becomes a drag, and you start to cheat and kind of get your bone angles in line with the strap, and you can make it look like you can do 60. But 60 from here to here. If you can do 60 from there to there, then it will be on the world stage, really.
As we know that WAF happened recently, we saw in WAF Artyom Morozov, and it became a huge controversy. In WAF, we all know that the drug testing is there, but still Artyom Morozov is there, and he dominates like anything. So what's the reason behind it? How it possible? Like, is it possible? Is it exist?
Well, I mean, they test. I've only been to WAF Worlds once, 2015, and they test one person from the podium and then one random person in the draw or something. From memory, from when I was there, that may have changed. They said to us on the day it was random, but yeah, I think people roll the dice that they just won't be tested. I don't know. I think it's pretty crazy to go to a WAF meet if you're on. I think it's pretty crazy. But how they didn't target test Morozov or something, yeah, that's pretty wild. But I don't know, like, whether there's politics involved as well with guarantees to a certain person, like we want you to come to help us with marketing or something like that, and we promise not to test you. If that happens behind closed doors, I mean, it's possible, that's for sure. It's a business at the end of the day. Unfortunately, arm wrestling is sort of poisoned by politics as well, of money, as is everything in life, no matter where you go. And promoters want to make money, and promoters will do whatever they have to do to make money. And I don't think that it's necessarily the best for the athletes, the way that some promotions or all promotions kind of do it. Like I'm a fan of athletes being able to pull anywhere, anytime that they want, under any conditions. I hate when any athlete is limited. Not that I'm saying there shouldn't be untested leagues. I think it's good to have tested leagues, and it's good to have professional leagues where you do whatever you want. But yeah, when you blur the two, when you blur the lines between the two, it doesn't look good to have someone who's as obviously on gear as Morrisville pulling in WAF. But yeah, I didn't even realize that it happened. So, but yeah, I think that I know in Australia our national federation tests at nationals, and there's the possibility that they test at state championships as well, and they have done it, and people have been banned. So, yeah, I don't know. I try my best to avoid the politics, but I end up being drawn into it somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're trying to market their federation, and it works. Like we are talking about it. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Exactly.
We'll proceed, and we want to know that recently in international wrestling, recently we saw that there is a match coming between LEVAN versus ARMWRESTLER. So who is
Yeah.
the favorite in that match?
That is a big match, and it's got to be the biggest match of 2025. LEVAN deserves to be the favorite because, I mean, he hasn't lost in his professional arm wrestling career, but ERMIS is looking scary. The numbers that he's doing on wrist rise seem to be worlds ahead of the second best. The way he threw around 52 kilos for 20 reps, when the next best is Vitaly Larratt doing a 1RM of 47, is a bit alarming, and it makes you think, hang on a second, he may well beat LEVAN. Now, if I use my head, I'm saying LEVAN is the favorite. LEVAN will win. He's not a bad arm wrestler. He does adjust well, and I think he's technically pretty sound. But my gut feel is getting more and more Hermes as every week goes by. He's hungry, and it's hard to be in LEVAN's position where you're defending against 4 people coming for him, where Hermes is just laser focused on LEVAN. I think it's going to be a very big match, a very close match. I think it's going to go down to the wire. I think this will be the first time we see LEVAN have to do something different. And so that's why I still think LEVAN will win. I think that if LEVAN only used his top roll, Hermes will win this match. But I think this match is going to show us that LEVAN can arm wrestle and that he can do more than just top roll. And I think if LEVAN does that, then we'll go. And then Hermes will be like, damn it, I prepared for his top roll. He's got a high hook and a press as well. Damn it. Or whatever. So yeah, I think LEVAN will be taking this one very seriously. He's not showing his lifts like Hermes is. Hermes is showing it the world, and he's getting all this momentum because his lifts are huge. But LEVAN's keeping quiet. LEVAN's not putting his lifts out. And I think that in itself shows us he's taking it very, very seriously. And 180 kilos serious LEVAN is a very, very big problem for anyone, isn't he? So yeah, but I can't wait. I can't wait for that match. It's gonna be huge.
So, especially with the lifts that Hermes is posting, the match is getting really close. So, also LEVAN made an allegation on Hermes that he's using fake weights. So, how true is that according to you?
I think that's just marketing. I don't think that LEVAN would think that for a second, just because I don't know. Well, it's either just marketing or LEVAN has tried the lift and he can't do it himself. If that's the case, then it is scary on how strong ERMIS is. But no, I don't think ERMIS would use this fake. But although I have seen ERMIS doing some lifts before, and I don't know where he gets his plates from, but they're funny looking plates. They are weird. And I remember looking at the plates when he was doing a single arm preacher bicep curl with not a dumbbell, but it was like a short sort of barbell. And it looked odd. It looked funny. And it said 60 kilos. And I was looking at it, I'm like, they're small looking plates for 60 kilos. But so I can understand why LEVAN has said it. But I don't think that ERMIS is the kind of guy to try to artificially inflate his numbers. I don't think that is going to intimidate LEVAN at all. I think I've sat next to ERMIS, and he's a monster. He is so big. His forearm. I used to think Lachlan Adair had a big forearm, and then I sat next to ERMIS, and it was like, oh man, Lachlan was there with me too, and I was like, Lachlan, your forearms are no longer big in my mind, because ERMIS is a different level, and I think he genuinely is the best man at the moment to beat LEVAN. So whether they're fake or not, it doesn't matter. We know ERMIS is strong, and we know it's going to be close.
So one more thing on which we wanted your opinion, the evergreen topic, Prime LEVAN versus Prime Denis. Who is your favorite?
I say LEVAN. I think LEVAN's style is a problem for Prime Denis. I think Prime Denis still loses center. I think the top roll of LEVAN takes away center. We see LEVAN stopped in that open arm top roll by Denis, but I don't think Denis can pull back through. I don't think he recovers his hand and ultimately defeats the pronator of LEVAN, which means LEVAN's bicep does gas. We saw LEVAN's bicep gas against ERMIS, so it could be a close match where it ends up with Stepankov trying to flop press a gassed LEVAN bicep. So it's not crazy impossible, but I would give LEVAN the edge based purely on the opinions of the other elites that pull against LEVAN, that have pulled Denis. They all say LEVAN, so I gotta go with them. Like John was there for Denis's peak, and Devin was there for Denis's peak. In a sense, he was there. They never pulled back then, but still, they have parallels between opponents, and all those guys say LEVAN's better. So I'll go with them.
So would you say that we can have a difference of opinions on right hand, but when we talk about left hand, would Denis be the greatest of all time?
Yeah, I think so. Denis is probably the best left. I don't think we've seen. I'm also a fan of Oleg Zok. Pre motor vehicle accident, Oleg Zok was number 2 on the all-time left hand, especially pound for pound. He at 80 kilos was beating everyone but Stepankov. Stepankov was the only dude that could hold him. He was rolling through Pushkar, he was rolling through Devin, he was rolling through John, he was rolling through everyone else. And he was only 80 kilos when he was doing it. So, but yeah, I do think Stepankov's left is the best all time. Yeah.
We want to know you have the good experience in arm wrestling, and it will help for the kids who are coming into arm wrestling. So if you have any suggestion for the beginners or intermediate arm wrestlers, what they need to learn quickly, faster, 2-3 tips if you can give.
Yeah, I would say that for the intermediate level arm wrestler, it's first of all to recognize what the components of being a good arm wrestler, what they actually are, and they are first and foremost technique, muscular strength, and then joint conditioning. They are 3 separate things. You can learn all 3 of those things at a different rate. I think it's important to develop your technique first, be complete. And when I say be complete, the biggest mistake that amateur or mid-level arm wrestlers make is that they rush for the pin. I like to think of your side pressure or your finishing power as like a nitrous oxide tank on a car. Like you've only got maybe 10 seconds worth of pressing that button. And if you press it all when you're in an inefficient position, you're not going to get the best out of yourself. So learn your technique, press that nitrous oxide button just a little bit at the start to get position, reassess, wait for, create opportunities, create spaces, learn to arm wrestle relaxed, learn to arm wrestle without redlining. And then when you've created a position that is going to give you the best reward, then press that button and redline again. So technique, don't underestimate technique. Technique is so much more than what is a top roll, what is a hook, what is a press. It's more about management of your energy. A lot of people will say, Devin Larratt's got immense endurance. He doesn't really have that much endurance. He has very efficient use of his energy. He rests a lot in every match. Even when he is in a red line match, he rests, he creates time. So learn technique first and foremost, then get strong. Get strong in the fundamentals, wrist flexion, back pressure, pronation, and don't overdo it on side pressure. Even though side pressure is so important, if you overdo it, you'll become very inflamed early on. Trust that side pressure will come, and then once you're at that about 5 to 8 year mark, start focusing on side pressure. That's about when everything else is developed enough that, okay, the final frontier is turn your elbow into steel. So I'd break it down like that. I would go technique first, muscular strength second, conditioning is the final frontier.
What if they want to grow like Aabhas Rana? What they need to do?
Say what?
What they
Devin.
No, what if they want to grow like Aabhas Rana? What they need to do?
They want to grow like Aabhas Rana. What to do? My goodness. Be good friends with a pharmacist. But obviously, everything, every strength, whether it's gym strength, arm wrestling strength, is consistency, discipline, patience. That is, but there is, although Aabhas is very big, very early, he's obviously got genetics that go with it as well, and he's obviously put in the time. And anyone who's strong, like people will say, here's how I always demonstrate exactly how powerful gear is or isn't. Now, people know that I've been on testosterone I was open about it many years ago, and I still am on testosterone to this day. My right arm is so much stronger, so much bigger than my left. My left arm has had just as much gear as my right. Okay, but my left arm is rubbish. Why? Because my left arm hasn't done the work my right has. So you've still got to do the work. Do not think that taking gear alone is going to make you Aabhas Rana. You have to put in a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of consistent effort in a good way. So if you want to be an Aabhas Rana, train heavy in the gym with good form and be friends with a pharmacist.
Okay.
Okay, so we have one of the subscriber questions also that can be very helpful. Would you suggest 3 most important exercises that transfer directly to the table and 3 useless exercises that you think have become quite popular but are useless for arm wrestling?
Yeah. Okay. Fundamental. The most transferable thing to arm wrestling is wrist flexion. You can combine wrist flexion and get back pressure on a cable. When I say back pressure, combining a little bit of bicep, a little bit of lat, a little bit of rear delt, all on a big, thick rolling handle. So anything rolling handle, keeping in a fundamental shape, just closing the gap that's from a ready go position to being on the back of a pad. That is like the most basic shape that is a must. The other one is, I would say, rising. You need to develop your rising strength through your wrist. Any number of ways to do that. There's a million. Just don't go too crazy heavy on that. I find that a lot of people like to pursue the heavy 1RMs because they're kind of cool to try to chase Devin's numbers and whatnot. And then any basic pronation. So wrist flexion, rise, and pronation are the must-haves for every arm wrestler. As for crazy lifts that people do, the one I hate most is probably when I see people get right underneath, almost have a vertical forearm and stand up and say, hey, look, I've got 90 kilos or something here, back pressure, where it's just don't chase numbers by using geometry and your bone angles to replicate weird positions. I think it's very easy with like people like Michael Todd will do some very funky lifts, and people will try to replicate them. But I always try to encourage people to realize that when you see an elite guy doing a funky lift, it's because he's already got every bit of the fundamentals developed. He will feel that he's got every bit of the fundamentals developed to the maximum point where he's not getting a return on there that is as rewarding as the return will be on this funky lift. Now, that's because he's jam-packed so much into his body and development already that the funky lift is now actually where the best return is for him. But if you go and start building that funky lift as your foundation strength, you're going to be missing everything that is more important, which is the basics. So don't copy Michael Todd and think that that's the right place to start. Don't copy Devon thinking that's the right place to start. The right place to start is at low pressure, learn some technique, and then become really strong in your bicep, really strong in your forearm flexors, really strong through your shoulders, and then start doing funky stuff later on.
So we'll wrap up this start our question. You are a frequent guest of India, and you are like frequently come to India for PPL, and you have very familiar with Indian audience as well. So as we can see that you have a lot of fans in India, and they are commenting on your post as well. So we want to know how is the experience when you visit India, and how is the Indian vibe?
Yeah, look, I love Indian arm wrestling. I've never been welcomed more so by a nation's arm wrestlers. So I had a fantastic time when I went to Haryana to full Mazahir. When I was in Mumbai, it was fantastic as well, meeting the clubs there. Everyone's super keen, super enthusiastic. And I've always been a really big believer that I think Indian arm wrestling will produce some of the world's best arm wrestlers, just because you guys have more numbers in the arm wrestling sense. I'm sure you've got more members nationally than any other nation out there. And for me, it's inevitable that the cream will rise as long as the structures are there and the opportunities for the top guys can get outside of India. I think that might be the biggest challenge, is getting outside of India. But I think that the cream will rise, and India will be one of the most dominant arm wrestling nations in sort of 10 years. So I think that India is awesome. I had a fantastic time here. The food in India, I'm a fan of the food as well. I don't go so well with the spicy foods. Like the Mumbai spice is a bit much for me, but if we're talking like the more mild northeastern states, sort of boiled chicken and dal and things like that, then I'm good. So, but yeah, India's been fantastic. I'll always be a fan of arm wrestling in India, and will visit as often as I can.
So it was quite wonderful getting all these insights from you. So we'd like to wrap up with this. Do you have some message for the fans watching you and also for Mazahir and PPL?
Yeah. Thank you to all the Indian fans. I hope you guys aren't dying too much when I put Indian music on my Instagram reels. I'm slow. I don't know what all the lyrics are, but I like the tune, so I put it on there, and I'm like, I wonder if this is a love song or not or anything. Like, it's probably, I get a lot of people laughing at my music. So thank you for being tolerant to all the Indian fans on my random Instagram stuff. But I really do truly appreciate the support. And for Mazahir, like I said, man, let's give you a super match that matters. You and I need to go again. Give me 3 days notice, and I can be in India, I can be in Dubai, whatever, wherever you want, I'll be there, and we can go again and see if you've developed the ability to finish that top roll of yours.
We see you soon in India, and the super match you are talking about against Ali Khan or against Mazahir, we'll see that soon. And very soon we want to know that, are you coming this year for people too?
Yeah, 100%. You will see me in India this year. I guarantee it. Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So yeah, We hope we see you soon.
Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.